Welcome to the Student Disability Resources Orientation. We're going to use this time to show you how to request accommodations from Disability Resources, also known as DR. This is a three-part process. First, self-identification. Second, providing disability information or documentation. And third, an intake interview. Your first step is to self-identify as a student with a disability requesting accommodations. Self-identify means that you recognize you have a disability and you'd like to request accommodations for participation in your courses and programs. For more information on the self-identification process and to fill out the self-identification form, please use the links in the video description below. If possible, please attach your information and/or documentation to the self-ID form when submitting it. It's really helpful to submit as soon as possible because it could take up to 4 weeks to review it all, meet with you, and process your request. Disability Resources will need information about two things. One, that you have a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits a major life activity. Two, how your disability is likely to impact you here at Northern Arizona University. This helps us understand how common tasks are impacted by your disability. For example, communicating or reading and writing. Maybe it's something to do with housing and campus living. It could be how you use technology, or maybe dining needs that you have. It could also be how you access the physical environment or participate in classroom, laboratory, and online learning. Disability Resources knows that providing disability documentation can sometimes be difficult, so please don't delay meeting with us even if you don't have the paperwork ready. We're here to help, and we want to get the process started for you. If you do have disability documentation ready and you didn't attach it to the self-ID form, you can bring it to us in these ways. You can bring it to our office in room 2050 at the Health and Learning Center, email it to dr@nau.edu, fax it to 928-523-8747, or just mail it to Disability Resources, P.O. Box 5633, Flagstaff, Arizona, 86011. Now, under Arizona law, the following types of records which identify a disability are sufficient to establish that you qualify as an individual with a disability. That could be any past accommodations and services from a public or private school, another college, or a state or high-stakes testing organization. It could be formal psychological or medical evaluation from a relevant licensed professional, letters from past health, education, or other service providers, or documentation from the uniformed services. Disability Resources may ask for additional documentation concerning your disability and/or your need for accommodations. But if you need assistance or have questions about this, please call or email us at 928-523-8773 or dr@nau.edu. Now, the third step is the intake interview. And once a student has completed and submitted their self-identification form, a DR staff member will call or email you to schedule this interview. The purpose of the interview is for us to learn firsthand from you what limitations you experience and what accommodations you might need. Once we do this, DR may approve or deny requested accommodations, but that's based on the information provided in your self-ID form, the documents you submit, and your intake interview. If you've requested a specific accommodation, NAU might offer you that accommodation, or we may offer an effective alternative. Now, within 4 weeks of submitting your self-identification form, a letter will be emailed to your NAU email address, and your eligibility status and accommodation determinations will be included in that. The factors that we use in considering our accommodation decisions are the following. If the proposed accommodation is necessary to ensure that any academic requirements or technical standards don't discriminate or have the effect of discriminating on the basis of disability. If the proposed accommodation is necessary to provide you with meaningful access or an equal opportunity to get the same benefit as your non-disabled peers from your program. If your proposed accommodation is logically connected to the impacts of your disability and the barriers to access you experience in the academic or campus environment, if that proposed accommodation is logically designed to address and remove that identified barrier to access. And then, of course, if implemented, the proposed accommodation would be effective in removing the identified barrier. Now, it's important to note that the proposed accommodation cannot lower an essential program standard, fundamentally alter an essential program element or requirement, or pose an undue administrative or financial burden to the university. So once you're determined eligible for services, you'll need to register with Disability Resources every semester to notify your faculty members of your accommodations and to utilize those accommodations. Thanks, and we hope to see you soon.